We live. We live.
Hello, welcome to Never Alone Live. It is great to be here, and today we have a special guest with us, a friend of ours from TikTok. Recovery Speaks with Kizzy, and
Yes.
thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. We like to kind of just jump in. Um, what got you here?
To tell my story
I mean, yeah, we'll just
or
start off.
what got
Where
me
so
here?
the, let's
Well,
no, let's just break it down. Where are you from? And
okay.
what was
I'm from um I'm from a small town in Texas,
small town in
Jacksboro,
Texas?
Texas.
Born and
Uh-huh.
raised.
Born and raised. I lived there until I was about 18 years old, 17, 18 when I went to college. And born and raised in Texas.
Born and raised in Texas. So, how long have you been in recovery?
8 years.
8 years. So,
Yes.
what was it like before recovery?
Well, I'd like to say that it was just a combination of a living hell and a lot of chaos. And, I had a good childhood, was really into sports. Uh, there was some fighting in my house that as I got older now, I realize kind of affected me of how I respond to things now when it comes to fights and stuff. Um, but I knew my parents loved me. I have two sisters and a brother, so I had a good size family. And like I said, I was born and raised in Jacksboro. I finished high school there, went and played basketball in college for a little while until I met a guy. It always starts with a guy for
Mhm,
me.
same, same.
Met a guy, and I quit basketball, and everything fell apart. It I just forgot what was important to me, and he became everything. He was I believe him and sex was my first addiction.
Yeah.
I truly believe that those two things were my first addiction. And it lasted about a year, and I just went downhill and moved out of my mom and dad's house. I went back, moved out again, moved to Fort Worth, Texas, met my first husband, and he was into some stuff, and I was a very naive 19-year-old, very sheltered, very small town sheltered.
Mhm. Felt that.
And I didn't know the red flags or the signs, and fell in love with him, and ended up having two girls with him, my daughters. But I became addicted to. I was holding my daughter one day, and I came downstairs, the front stairs outside, and fell and hurt my tailbone. Well, what did they throw at me? Pain pills. And that is when I realized, after a while, that when I got better and I still wanted them, that I had an addicted personality, big time.
How old were you when this went down?
Um, let's see, I was 19 when I got married, to my first husband. So probably around 23, 23 is when I started taking the pills. And one morning, I mean, my life, it consisted of, and my husband's life consisted of, because he was doing it with me. of going to the, doctor shopping and getting them, and, that whole life. And, even though our kids were fed, clean, had their needs met, they didn't have that love. They didn't have the emotional needs met at all because we were too preoccupied with getting pills.
Well, this didn't happen though till you were 23. What about before then? Did you have any problems with substances before? Drinking and anything like that. Which is, see, this is always, I am a product of. I started drinking very very early, and I know Krista started drinking, like right out of the womb. So it's this is always interesting to find somebody who started kind of later in life, and and this is finding pills later in life and not the drink. That's interesting. Go ahead. Sorry, I digress.
Well, the only drink I ever had before I got married was I was babysitting and took one of my aunt's wine coolers and drank it. And that was probably when I was 16, 17 years old. And that is the only drink I ever had because I was too worried about getting kicked off a sports team or upsetting my dad or, so I didn't smoke. I didn't drink. I didn't anything. So, and when I started drinking, when it would be like if we went out dancing like every 2 or 3 months, it wasn't like I was, I wasn't drinking it wasn't a problem when in my 20s.
Yeah.
The pills were the big problem. And by the time my mom and dad showed up one morning at my house, my husband had just went to the store. They showed up at my house. I weighed probably 75 pounds soaking wet and was laying on the couch just, I was going to say unaliving, dying, unaliving, sorry.
Yeah, we can say different things here.
I think.
I think we're good.
So we found a rehab, my very first rehab, and I was 28, 29, and we found my first rehab, and I went to detox for 10 days, and then I went to IOP they kind of forgot to graduate me, which is fine because the more IOP that you have, the better, But it was like 3 or 4 months worth of IOP. So I just kept going. And it stuck with the pills. Whatever happened, it stuck. And to this day, I have not had a problem since with the pills. And you'll learn as we keep talking, I could have easily have gotten addicted to them again with the health things I have in surgeries. So, I moved back to Jacksboro, got a rent house, and was taking care of the girls, got a job. I was going to school for medical billing and coding, and then I got a job at the hospital there in Jacksboro. Ended up being the marketing director there. And, everything was good. Everything was good. And then another guy showed up. Another guy. And, he was as straight-laced as they come. Straight-laced. And, I didn't have an active problem at that time. And he treated me and the girls like princesses and me a queen. And we ended up getting married for the second time. And I was 30, just a minute. I got my cheat sheet. I was married to him from 2012 to 2015. And he ended up destroying me, destroying everything that there was. I knew this would happen.
It's okay. Tears are good.
He destroyed everything that I was, everything I felt about myself, my self-worth. Treated my girls like shit. And, I didn't know how to get out. I was, nervous about telling anybody. Not because I was embarrassed of having another divorce, but because I was embarrassed that I chose someone that treated my kids so badly. And then when we got a divorce, guys, that's when in 2015, that's when everything hit the fan for me. I bought a house, but I bought a house catty cornered to his. And every day that I saw him with the girl that he was cheating on me with, it tore me down further and further. And one day, me and the girls, I was drinking. And before we got the divorce, I was so down that I was starting to realize that 2 glasses of wine was better than 1, 3 was better than 2, and so on and so on. But I still at that time didn't have to drink every day because of withdrawals. But I wanted it. And I was drinking one day, and me and my girls got in a big fight. And I told them to pack their stuff. This is the one decision that I regret, and I'll regret it the rest of my life. Told them to pack their stuff and call their dad. And they're grown now, but from that day on, they've never lived with me again, ever. And they did. They packed their stuff. They went with their dad. The next day, I decided I was moving to Ruidoso, New Mexico, because that's where we vacationed my whole childhood. And I was going there to unalive myself by drinking. That's why I was going. I never planned on coming back. And in 2015, I laid on a couch for 6 months, doing nothing but drinking and drinking and drinking. And I succeeded at what I went there to do. I walked out on my front porch. I was going to feed the deer. And that is the last thing I remember for 9 days. Because I had organ failure and I had unalived and was on a ventilator. They called my mom and them were 10 hours away because they took me to Albuquerque because Ruidoso Hospital could not handle me. And I will never, my whole family was there, and they said, that they needed to try to get me off that ventilator to see if I could breathe. I will never forget when I woke up, the look on my family's face. And it was a look of this sadness that I have never seen. And this despair and anxiousness and all these things together. And they all just were looking at me, and they were really surprised that I started breathing again. I had to learn to walk again. Because and I couldn't breathe without an oxygen tank because when my organs failed, fluid came out of them, and some of it went to my lung and turned it into leather. They call it ARDS. And I couldn't breathe without an oxygen tank. My sugar was all over the place because my pancreas was shot. And I just remember my mom and dad taking shifts. It was 10-hour drive. They were taking shifts, coming back and forth. They never left me alone. I will say, I always try to see the good in things that happen, the blessing and the lesson. And me and my dad had never had as good of a relationship as we had those days that he would stay with me alone and all we would do is talk in the hospital. And that was a blessing through all of it, because me and my dad only had a sports relationship. I knew my dad loved me, but it was just centered around sports, him and I.
Amazing. Kizzy, I'm going to stop you for a second because this is you're amazing. First off, thank you for being here. Thank you for being vulnerable with us and all the stuff you're sharing. And it's we have a progressive disease, right? And it starts at this slow, okay, things have gotten bad. I'm going to get out of it a little bit and how it built up to what it built up for you. And it doesn't matter where you are in life. I want people to hear. I love hearing other people's stories. And I love that we have people here watching now, because there's other people that started later in life, and people that can relate to this and relate to your story. And we talk about powerlessness, and in your story you've already shared powerlessness over and giving other people the ability to be our higher power, and that's enormous. And so I thank you so much for what you've shared so far. I can't wait to hear the rest. I want to jump to the comments for a second just to say hi to a couple people. Our friend Brandy Harris is here. If you don't know Brandy, I'm telling you, I think Kizzy and Brandy would be best friends. So we've got to introduce them later. And we have hang on, where is it? There's Sabin, 6 months sober today. Sabin, we love that. Joe Connolly, 49 days sober today. I love that. If you're celebrating something, we're celebrating something. Love all this. Love you guys. And we've got all sorts of friends in here. Jessica Lauder, she's a friend in here. And Paul, I believe, is in here. And our friend Tiffany. Tiffany is from Canada, and she has been on every single live we've been on. She never misses a Wednesday. And Helen is here. So thank you all for being here right now. And Jessica Jenks, she's another TikTok person. 3 years. Love you, Jessica. So glad you guys are all here. And look, now they've gotten going. Once I start going over to the comments, it's hard to come back. Tracy has 46 days today. Tracy, so proud of you. And Breanne Lynn has a year, 1 month, and 7 days. I think
there's a big one though. One tomorrow, David. He celebrates 2 years.
Where did David
tomorrow.
Go? 2 years tomorrow, David. Love that.
All right.
Love that.
Well,
love
I like
you.
the snap. We should snap.
We're gonna snap.
We snap.
I'm so proud of all you guys, and please keep sharing. Tell us more. Okay, Kizzy. So where are we at? Where you had a pill problem, and you sought help, and you went to IOP for 4 months. I love that story, by the way. And then now you've developed a drinking problem later in life, and you attempted and were successful, but you came back. And so now you've got a great relationship with your dad. and let's hear what happened next.
It was a pretty big, a big thing that I forgot to tell y'all. I didn't forget. Well, because I didn't on purpose tell y'all when I was talking about my childhood, because it kind of leads into this. When those 6 months were happening when I was drinking, I called my mom one night, and I finally, at 30 whatever, told her about my grandfather abusing me. I had held that in since I was 9 years old. And there is no doubt in my mind that contributed in my earlier years to men and sex, because I thought that's all men wanted. When I got older and realized it was wrong, I didn't know it was wrong at the time. It took me a while to realize it was wrong, and I didn't have anybody to talk to because I was too scared to. So I didn't talk to a soul. I kept it in until I had to have been 30, however old I was, 2015. and I'm 46, whatever. And I kept it in for that long, and I finally told her, and I don't think she told anybody. I think it's still just between her, even though he's now gone. My grandfather is now gone. And I'm not happy, but I feel a sense of calmness in my soul now that I don't ever have to see that face again. But it helped shape who I was, big time. So me and my dad. I'll go back to me and my dad. We were getting into a great relationship. I had to stay after I was discharged. I had an oxygen tank. They thought they were going to have to put an insulin pump in me. They said I would never breathe on my, without an oxygen tank again, or walk or whatever. And I was like, by damn, watch me. I'm too young to be walking around with the oxygen tank and insulin pump, and no, I'm too young. And so I did some home health. We went back to the house that we had in Reynosa and stayed there for about a month and did some rehab on myself, and came home. And I never came to Jacksboro. I never went to rehab at that time for my drinking. I just unalived, was in the hospital, cleaned myself out, and then just came back to Texas. So I never went to rehab, outpatient therapy, nothing. And I was still having pancreas problems and a lot of pain. And I went to the doctor. She sent me to a specialist in Dallas, and they said I had to have this surgery. And I said, okay, whatever we need to do, let's do it, get me better. And they didn't tell me exactly that I wasn't going to be 100% better ever again. But they did what was called a Whipple surgery, and they took out most of my pancreas, my spleen, half my stomach, and my gallbladder. So, it blows my mind that this disease is so strong that I felt all of this happening laying on that couch in New Mexico, and I still kept doing it. And sitting in that doctor's office, it was still blowing my mind that this disease is just so cunning and strong. Well, I had the surgery.
Yeah, so they call this the Whipple surgery. They took out like half your guts, and they give it a fun name like Whipple.
Yeah, that's what they call it.
I'd never heard of this one before. I mean, this is
It's a Whipple.
okay.
A Whipple
But
surgery.
I mean, let's for where you were just now to what you just said. You still, even with all this stuff, you had trauma that was unresolved trauma,
Yes.
and and you didn't. This usually it's seriously short after that we find the solution of drugs and alcohol, and you found those later in life. And so this trauma that was with you your whole life, that was basically ignored by mom. And man, I'm telling you, kids, it's so, I hate hearing it, and I'm so sorry that you went through it. So you found the solution. And once we find that solution, we talk about this a lot, because this is what we had. We found a solution, something that made me feel better. Low self-esteem, I know how to fix that. Don't trust anybody, I'll just not think about it. This is what alcohol and drugs, they are the solution for all this negativity in my life. I know Krista talks about this a lot. Krista, you talk about that trauma stuff a lot. Yeah. So you want to share for a second?
Yeah, I can relate a lot with you, Kizzy. Like a lot. And from childhood, being in sports and trying to just, your first thing is you're trying to just keep everybody happy, like your parents. You're just trying to get approval. And then noticing that, because I don't know the timing, but it sounds like when you were prescribed those pills in the beginning was around the time the whole country was too. It was the big epidemic that catalyst it all. And they were just trying to put a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, really. And didn't really care what it was going to do to everybody. And you're kind of left on your own, and no therapy, and there has to be a release somewhere. And trauma plays a huge role. And then you don't know what you don't know as a kid, like going through that, because my family's going through something similar to that. And like, everyone wants to say hush hush and not talk about it, but the victim is literally left to live with it, but the abuser just goes on with their life like nothing happened. And it's gonna have to come out eventually. It's gonna have to surface, and it comes out in unhealthy ways. And it's really survival. You're just trying to survive and move on, and then it takes a toll on your body, and you are a survivor. And I'm so grateful you're here, and I can relate so much with this.
Thank you, Krista.
Thank you, Krista. Okay, Kizzy, we're back at it. So you've had the Whipple surgery, and you're still drinking.
No.
Oh, okay. That was when was that the?
No,
was
I
that
stopped
the
drinking,
point?
and I've stopped after I passed away. I stopped for a little while. So I had the Whipple surgery. I'm not drinking at the time. Was in the hospital for a very long time, and when they released me, I don't know. Can I say the names of the medications?
I don't know. We haven't quite figured that out.
Okay. On the pain pill, they sent me home with the M1 that they usually put through the vein, but it was a pill. The H1, and then the one that's an epidemic now. What does it start with? Phen.
Yeah.
And they were patches.
Yeah.
Well, all three of those they sent me home with. And I get it. I'm gutted like a fish. But, I didn't know how I was going to handle that, because I had already shown another addiction. This is my third addiction, sex, men, and then pills, and then alcohol. How am I going to handle this? This is my first time since I was 28 years old that I've taken a pain pill.
Yeah.
And, my brain handled it really, really well, if that makes sense. Like I wasn't enjoying it. It wasn't, it wasn't like it was in my 20s.
Yeah.
But when I finally didn't, I tried to get off them as fast as possible. And when I tried, I had to go to rehab because my body was addicted to it.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. And I was not going to sit there and let those pills be the solution to my withdrawals and I wasn't going to do it because my brain did not want it to happen and it wasn't going to happen. So I went back into rehab for the pills to get detoxed. And I was still, I guess I was about a month or two out from the surgery after I got out of the hospital, and I started drinking again. And it was very little. In my head, it was like, it's little. It's not that big old jug of liquor. It's okay. Yeah.
Preservations.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, it became that big old jug of liquor again. Very, very quickly. Like, I don't do anything slow. Like, it's like I get it in my system and boom, I'm there.
Yep.
You know? And that's why there's not a lot of in the alcohol, there's not a lot of progression on that one because it was like, ooh, 2's better than 1, 3's better than 1. Ooh, liquor's better than wine. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's within like a 3-month period.
Yeah.
So
escalated real quick.
Yeah, real fast. And so I started drinking again. And I called my mom one night. We went to rehab. I still had my feeding tube. They didn't want to take me in because it was medical, because I had a feeding tube.
Yeah.
And they said, this is a medical thing. We can't take care of that feeding tube here. So, and I was crying. I was like, you've got to take me. You got to take me. Call whoever you got to call. So they ended up accepting me in, and I got clean off of alcohol, but I lost my apartment that I had. I was not welcomed by my dad back out to the house. So I ended up having to live in an Oxford house.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed clean, but I wasn't getting any help. Like I didn't follow through on therapy. I didn't follow through on those things. I was just staying clean because I needed a place to live, and I knew that, And so one night, so I'm not drinking, and one night we went to play pool, and long story short, there was a guy. But this was different. I met him, and I really enjoyed his company. I may or may not have allegedly moved in with him very quickly and got married within 3 months. I showed up to his house with my stuff. And we got married, and I spent my I started drinking again when I moved in with him. And he was a drinker, but not an alcoholic. And I started drinking again. And we got married at the courthouse. And I spent our honeymoon in detox. I said, I need to stop. I can't do this anymore. So I did. I went. I had somebody my therapist came to the house. Because I didn't have a car at the time, and I followed through on therapy, all that stuff, and that's when I started finally talking about the trauma with the therapist. And when we had been married for nearly a year, and I was good. I thought I was sound. I didn't realize how vigilant. See, I still hadn't learned how vigilant you have to be with this disease.
Yeah.
That you can't take your eye so-called off the ball ever.
Ever.
And one night, my oldest came over to help me organize my closet. And before she got there, I drank four little things of wine in those 4 things. I hadn't drank in so long that it got me drunk, of course. And we had the worst fight that you could imagine, guys. It got physical, and I have not talked except for at a viewing for a funeral for 15 minutes. Not talked to my oldest in 8 years.
Oh.
And that hurts my heart more than anything that I have ever done in my life, was to fight with her. That I'm her mama. I'm supposed to protect her. I'm not supposed to cause her trauma. And the fact that I have caused my 2 girls trauma in their past, it still eats at me. Not as bad as it did, but I don't think I'll ever get rid of that. You know,
Like grief.
I don't. Yeah, it is grief.
Yeah.
It's grief that's just on a loop.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I'll ever get rid of that. And so that was the last time. That was in 2015. And nearly 16 to 2015. I haven't had a drink since.
So that was it. That was the final straw, and that was you know, that was that gift of desperation.
Yeah, that was my rock bottom.
That's okay. So we're gonna pause there for 2 seconds because we have a comment from Monica. She says, "Hi, what's the best way to get in touch with you?" Thank you, Monica. I don't know who you're referring to. If you're referring to Krista or Never Alone or Recovery Speaks, all of which have Facebook pages and Instagram and TikToks. You can message all of them. And what are you laughing at?
TikTok. That's where we.
I'm telling you, all these people are. Oh, this is we got our TikTok family, and
thank you, Tracy. Sorry, guys, I had to say thank you to somebody.
And
they're over here saying how proud they are of you.
Kizzy and Krista are live on TikTok simultaneous. So I mean, our width is broad. We got bandwidth today. Okay, so Kizzy, now this is where I really want to get into it. I mean, we all have our stories. Now I want to talk about the solution. You've been sober for 8 years. How did we get sober, and how do we stay sober? That's the rest of our time together. I want to focus on that. We've got a lot of newcomers in here, and I want, with 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, I want them to hear what, worked for you. Everybody has a different way of getting to the same place. And I'm very curious now, how did you get recovery?
Well, I started going to AA whenever I, stopped. And then just, I just felt like I didn't know. I don't want to say anything like, I just felt like I shouldn't go there, that I went to NA. That's where I ended up going, was NA. And I know it's kind of weird, and I call it going to NA, but I got so much out of NA,
Yeah.
And I worked my steps, and I work my steps. I know they say to do it every year, but I do it every couple of years.
Mhm.
And the steps work. I mean, the way they made me reflect on myself and look within, that's what I was missing, was looking within. Who is Kizzy? That's, because I had put labels on myself. I'm just an athlete. I'm just an alcoholic. I'm just a divorcee. I'm a mom. I'm just a mom that doesn't see her kid. I put labels on me. Now
Yeah.
it was time to do these steps that are proven, to help, and look within, figure out who I am, and pour my energy into myself, and to remain vigilant. And for the first 3 years, I went to NA, and then since then, I work my steps, I do my readings, I journal, I do my TikToks and meet people like you guys, and spend time, with other addicts that help me with different perspectives, different, all that stuff. And so far, that is how that's how I'm doing it, is, the traditions and the steps, man. They're they're the key, in
Amen.
my opinion. They're the key.
Love that, Kizzy, and I love that you tried multiple things. You tried AA, wasn't fit for you. Okay, great. You went to NA, you learned there. And when we're out there and we're in active use, problems come up, life comes up, trauma comes up, and the solution are drugs and alcohol. And when we come out and we get that gift of desperation, that's and it's a gift. It really is, because it allows me to actually have the open-mindedness and the willingness to then do those steps, do that self-searching appraisal, do that self-assessment. And it's hard. And when I'm out there, I'm normal. I'm fine. Yeah, I don't have a car anymore. Yeah, whatever. Yes, I don't. I'm kind of homeless because I'm living in my mom's basement. Yeah, fine, whatever. Yeah, I get arrested every now and then. That was what my normal was. How
Yeah.
dare you tell me I'm broken? How dare you call me an alcoholic or a drug addict? No, you're an alcoholic and drug addict for thinking I'm
Mhm.
an alcoholic and drug addict. It's a. But when I get that, when I finally get that gift of desperation, get this open mindedness, and I do these steps, man, it's a miracle what happens
Yeah.
next.
Yeah.
Yeah. And see, I never did the steps like all those other times I went to rehab or to
Mhm.
psych ward, or because I have been diagnosed, because I am a true believer mental health comes before the addiction.
Yeah.
I mean, they're hand in hand. But I am diagnosed with bipolar and depression and anxiety. Um, all the psych wards I went to, all the rehabs I went to, I never did the steps, because I would get it, and I wasn't. It's because you said willingness. That's what made me think of that. Is that I looked at them, they seemed daunting, and it wasn't worth it to me at the time.
Yeah.
I wasn't willing to put in the work, because you have to be willing to put the same, as we all say, the same energy and the same work that you put into that addiction to get that substance, to get that money, to get whatever you need to get high or drunk. You got to put it into your recovery.
Amen.
And I read Jules's comment, and like she said, people, places, things.
Yeah.
You stay away. You got to change them. People always. I laughed at that, because I was like, I can. What do those people have anything to do with my control of myself? I can control myself. Well, control, for one thing, is an illusion.
Amen.
I mean, but I once I did start surrounding myself with the right people and the people in recovery, I made a complete turnaround in my thought process, in my willingness, in me staying teachable, in everything. I didn't have an ego anymore. I didn't. I got humble. I realized that yes, you fell from grace, but you know what? You picked yourself back up, and that is not who you are. You're not your past. You are who you are now, and you're your future.
I love you so much.
I love that, Kizzy. I love that. So now let's talk. I want to talk about one last thing because we've been on for a while now. We find recovery, right? That does not mean that life is not going to stop lifing.
Right.
There's been hard times in recovery. Things have happened. Tell me a story. What's happened negative to you in recovery that you have overcome?
My grand, he had prostate cancer. They told him not to do chemo, that it was not aggressively growing. Well, a year later, I believe it was a year later, or 2 years later, he passed away. But it wasn't a good passing. He was on hospice and he was at the house. It was bad. He was like my second dad. And he looked at me on his good day, because he had a couple bad days, and then he was straight up in the bed having a good day, and passed away the next. But he looked at me and he always used to tell me, "Kizzy Wizzy, you be good. You be good." And I would always say, "Yes, sir." But he looked at me and he said, "Don't let this cause you to drink."
Oh.
That right there is the only reason I did not drink. Because the grief I felt was a grief like I have never felt in my life at the time. And then my Mimi a year later died, or his wife died of Parkinson's. And my grand's words still were the only reason I didn't drink in those times. And when I didn't do it, those words were the only thing. But when I didn't do it, it showed me how strong I was in my recovery. Because I could have blocked those words out, just like I blocked God out for all those times in active addiction, because he gave me a conscience. But I could have blocked him out, but I didn't. And I knew that I had the strength of a warrior, and I wasn't letting my time go. I wasn't.
I love that. See, that's I knew you'd come up with a good story for me right away. I knew that. I knew it. And
He's good stuff.
This is, because life happens. We're gonna lose people. We're gonna grieve in recovery. It's going to happen. It's how I'm going. The only thing I have control over today are my reactions to outward things and my decisions. And when I when I know that this is no longer the solution, and something bad happens, and I don't use that solution, I use something else. We get stronger every time. We get stronger. We get more resilient. And Kizzy, I'm so proud of you, and I love you, and I'm so glad you came on here with us today and told your story, and you were both vulnerable and honest. I love you, and I know everybody in the comments is gonna love you. This goes out, and there's a lot more people that are gonna see this and hear this. What's the best way for people to find you?
TikTok. Recovery Speaks with Kizzy.
Recovery Speaks with Kizzy is her TikTok channel, and you go live every day, correct?
I do, every day at 4 a.m. Central.
Very early.
4 a.m. Central Standard Time. So that's
and I will say that I will say that the person up here in the left-hand corner is going to have to get up real early
I'm
on
ready.
Friday.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'll get up for
This
you.
Friday, Krista is going to be. You are interviewing Krista on Recovery Speaks with Kizzy, which is so awesome. But that's 3:00 in the morning her
No,
time.
5.
No, 5:00 in the morning. But East Pacific is the other one.
Yeah.
Okay.
They gotta get up early.
So this
Stay
is
up all
awesome,
night.
and I have jumped on your lives because I woke up in the middle of the night and it's 4:30 in the morning. I'm in bed. I got one eye open on my TikTok. One eye open on my TikTok, typing, "Hi, Kizzy." But you know, you're out here and you are actively trying to help other people, and I see that. And
I've seen it too.
So when setting up this this talk today, I knew that, and I couldn't wait to hear your story and see who we can help today. That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
So any last words of encouragement to our people today?
Well, one, I am so proud of all y'all that are in recovery. And if you're not in recovery, I am so proud that you are here and you are listening. Um, just remember, as I said, I knew I had the warrior strength. We all have it. It's all there. You just have to dig deep, find it, and be vigilant. And just know it's not easy, but it's doable. And like he said, life will be lifing. But that means you have the strength. You're stronger and can handle life as it comes. Don't think that you can't. And just be vigilant, guys. And you got it. You got it. And my DMs are always open.
Thank you, Kizzy. Krista, you got any words of wisdom for everybody?
Yeah, your mistakes don't define you. And I love that she said we have the warrior in us. We all do. And you got to put the work in. That's the big one. You can't just sit and expect it. And there are solutions and tools out there. And there's so many different ways to find recovery. And it's important to take suggestions.
Yes.
Look, I'm telling you, that's so good. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. God loves you. So do I. And with that, we'll see you next Wednesday. Same bad time, same bad channel.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.